Hey friends, so it's late, but I really want to share this today because I've been seeing all of these memories flood my Facebook lately of what was happening in my life 2 years ago in January. And it's been really difficult to see and kind of relive some of the memories of what was one of the second most traumatic month of my life and the most intense spiritual warfare of my life. I haven't always been someone that even believed in the enemy. I certainly haven't always been someone that walked with the Lord, and I definitely didn't really believe in spiritual warfare. But life has taught me better, and now I know it's very real and have experienced it many, many times myself on small, medium, large scales. But 2 years ago, like I said, was the most intense. At the end of December of 2020, God had opened my eyes to the fact that I was actually walking in disobedience to Him in an area of my life, that He had led me to a wellness business, an opportunity that He knew was going to change my life, and so many others, and I wasn't really trying because I was holding back in fear. And fear of making past mistakes, fear of letting something else take over. They were like good reasons to fear, but it was still fear. And so I told my husband what God put on my heart. We prayed about it, talked about it, and I decided that January 1st that I was going to let myself try. And literally that morning, I woke up and found out one of my best friends, my spiritual mentor, my financial coach, died abruptly of cancer. Didn't get to say goodbye. And I just wrestled with such a strong woman of God, losing her life to cancer again, leaving her family. I cried all day. And that night, my daughter Eden choked. And we had no idea what she was choking on. She was turning purple. I was alone with the kids. We had to call the paramedics. I really honestly felt like I almost lost her. I was just crying out to God. It was very, very traumatic. We were in and out of emergency rooms the next couple of days trying to figure out what was wrong. And then they found a star. And it was a plexus star that I had gotten in an envelope celebrating me and congratulating me for getting a big bonus. Somehow a little star had fallen out like into our rug or something, and she got it and choked on it. And that was very strategic. It was a strategic attack designed to stop me because the enemy knows that, like, if my business is hurting my children, that would be something that would make me stop. And I didn't yet know what was on the other side of all of this intense spiritual warfare, but it kind of started with that. And we were discharged, and the very next day, I should say, this is a big trigger for me, health problems. I had a fear of following Jesus with my life because my mom was a devout follower of Jesus, and I saw her suffer and die of cancer. And at 16 years old, what I took from that was, if you love the Lord, if you give your life to Jesus and you follow Him, you're going to suffer. And so I was really afraid when I became a Christian of what that would mean for my life. And while it's not what I thought, and there have been so many abundant blessings, the truth is you're going to suffer in this world either way, right? There's going to be trials, there's going to be hardships. No one escapes that. But when you go through it as a Christian, you have the Lord, and you have community, and you have fellowship, you have peace, you have hope, you have joy. Like, there's so many different things, but you never go through anything alone anymore, which is everything. So that night when Eden was in emergency surgery and I was by myself, God really reminded me that He is there, that it's His daughter, and that when I couldn't be in that surgical room, that He was there and He was holding her. And I was just reminded of my desperate need for Him, my dependence on Him, and I just experienced Him and His love so closely. Well, when we got discharged, the very next day, the very next day, my son went outside to get on a scooter with the neighbors, and it was right when I opened up my computer to work, and for the very first time in like a week. And right when I opened up my messages to check in on my customers, my son fell and broke his arm, and we were right back in the emergency room within 24 hours of leaving it with Eden. And then I was supposed to be at a leadership conference that next weekend, and my daughter started to spike a fever and a rash and acting really lethargic and not herself. And I just felt like we all felt like the enemy was trying to stop me from just doing anything with Plexus, from going to this leadership, event that I had earned. But my kids love my kids more than like anything. And I was like, I cannot go when she's not okay. But I am learning, and God's been opening my eyes to the fact that the greatest calling that I have in my life is not being a mom like I've always thought. It's following Jesus and being an ambassador for Christ. And my children cannot become an idol. And I need to trust Him and let my faith be bigger than my fear. And that was so hard for me, so hard for me. But I didn't want to let the enemy win. And my oldest son was like, Mommy, you know why he's doing this, so you need to go. So I went just for one night. I went for half the time. And when I got home, my daughter was still clearly not well. And I made an appointment for the pediatrician. And the next day, I took her in, and they said that her levels were completely, there was no way that those could be real, that the machine must be broken. And then they ran them again and they came back in and they said that it was very serious, and they called us an ambulance and said we needed to get to the hospital immediately, and it looked like it was cancer. And I'll never forget the way that that felt, hearing that word. My greatest fear in that moment came to life. My greatest fear since my mom died of cancer had been myself or one of my kids getting cancer and losing another loved one. And that fear just swallowed me whole. And that 24 hours waiting to hear if she had cancer was the 24 like longest hours of my life outside of losing my mom. And the Lord met me there, just like he met me there in the emergency room when they were twisting Caleb's arm to get the x-rays, and he was screaming and thrashing in pain. I've never heard screams like that in my life. And my husband and I, it was absolutely the most excruciating pain that I have ever been in. And I had to leave the room because I couldn't even take what they were doing. And I felt like God met me there and said, this is what I went through for you, but so much worse, and what I went through for your children. But I did it willingly. I offered up, like, you don't want any part of this. You want to kill these people right now. Like, you want to take your son and run. But I did this. I went through so much worse. I watched pieces of my son's skin be torn off of his back with metal whips. I watched them break his bone. I watched them nail his body to the cross. Like everything he watched, he willingly endured for us because of how much he loves us. And that is a love that I can trust in, and a love that I can trust with my children, and a love that I can trust with my health and my life, and that I can stake my own life on. So I learned a lot. I grew a lot through a lot of pain. But that night, when we were waiting to hear if Eden had cancer, just my fear, I just kept wrestling, trying to have faith. I stayed in the Word literally those 24 hours straight in the hospital bed. My daughter was getting a double blood transfusion. She was 11 months old. And I had so many people praying for us, and I just kept trying to believe the best, but I just kept assuming the worst, and I did it so imperfectly. But when they told us it wasn't cancer, I will never forget the relief that I felt, and just praising the Lord and being so grateful, because not everybody gets that news, right? But we went home and I was just so weak and so weary. There was resentment against my spouse for everything I went through, like alone, and being so many sleepless nights with sick kids, and just like everything was hard, and it was just such intense spiritual warfare, and I was so weary. And I just remember when the doctor said cancer, I was like, you win. You win. Like, I knew the enemy was trying to stop me. I've never been so like attacked in my life, but I was like, if you're gonna try to like give my daughter cancer to make me stop, fine, you win. And the Lord strengthened me. He carried me through. And at the end of that month, the one thought I couldn't shake, because I was like, if I persist, if I continue to try with Plexus, what worse trials could await me and my family? What else could the enemy do to my children or me? And that fear was too great for me. But God, just like the enemy has studied me and my weaknesses, the Lord knows me, my weaknesses, and the Lord carried me through. And he strengthened me. And the thought that I feel like he kept putting on my heart that I couldn't shake was like, I just kept thinking, if the enemy is trying this hard to stop me, what is so great that lays on the other side of this? And that is what picked me up and helped me February 1st to kind of try to get back and stand on my feet and to try again. That month I ranked up in my business. The following month I ranked up again. A couple months later, I found out I was top 20 for the entire year in Plexus and was awarded for that. We just kept getting more and more income, helping and changing more and more lives. More and more people were being set free from their afflictions and anxiety and depression, and breaking free from the prisons that they'd been living in. Husbands were getting their wives back. Children were getting their moms back. It was all to the glory of the Lord. Women on my team were making money and ranking up. It was just incredible. And then a few months after that, we hit a top rank with Plexus, and everything changed for our family just a couple days before my husband lost his job to a vaccine mandate. And that was the Lord's provision. And I could see so clearly why the enemy was trying so hard to stop me. But I know in the moment, we don't usually get to see that. And so I just wanted to come on here to encourage you that when resistance comes, when you decide that you're going to, get back to that fitness routine, taking better care of your health, or you recommit to your marriage, or you start trying to fight for your marriage, or you decide you're going to go to counseling and get the help that you want, or you're going to go back to school because there's a dream or a passion on your heart, or you're going to finally get yourself to church, or you're going to take a step to grow in your faith, or sign up for that Bible study, or guys, whatever. There's a million examples I can give you, or just do that thing that God's calling you to do. Expect resistance to come. Expect it to come, because we have an enemy, and he hates you, and he hates God, and he hates his plans, and he wants to stop you. But don't let him. It's okay to be weak. It's okay to feel like you're falling apart. It's okay. I mean, I did it so imperfectly, but don't let him win. Remember that we are fighting not for victory, but we are fighting from victory. The victory has already been established, and he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And something that I kept clinging to is that nothing can come to me or to my children that hasn't first passed through the hands of our Father. The enemy had to ask for permission to afflict Job. The enemy had to act and God might allow things for his divine purposes, for testing, for refinement, for the good of others, for his glory. But he who gave his son for us, he who endured beyond what we will ever endure, no matter how bad our lives get, he can be trusted. So press in, lean in, let God be your strength. Rest in the shadow of his wings. Pray without ceasing. Renew your mind. Meditate on his truth and his promises. Stay in the word. Get people to pray for you. And just know that you will come through those trials and you will come out victorious. And you are never alone in the midst of them. God is carrying you, and he will be with you always.